All right, let me talk about Charlie Kirk. So, a phrase keeps popping in my head that when I was homeless, I used to go to McDonald's in the morning because the coffee's cheap, $1 for a large coffee, and it's not that bad. I mean, it ain't good. Starbucks, I think, is good coffee. I prefer my own coffee. I buy the Bustelo, the high grade Bustelo. But anyways, I always. This is why my videos are. I get off my point. Anyways, I was standing outside McDonald's smoking a cigarette, drinking my coffee one morning when I was homeless in New York, and my buddy Ben is coming by, and this is one of my best friends, so he would always stop to talk. And he's like, dude, I keep seeing this sign every morning I walk past it. It's some sort of advertisement, and it says, is it me, or is it getting crazier out there? And every time I see it, I think to myself, it's not just you, buddy. It's getting crazier out here. And me and Ben were cracking up because we lived on the street in New York City, and there was never a dull moment, especially with the people we knew. We knew all the homeless people on the west side of Manhattan, and there was just never a dull moment. Always fights, always this, always that, people getting arrested. It was always getting crazier out there. And me and Ben were cracking up at that sign that he sees every day. And I just been thinking of it lately. Is it me, or is it getting crazier out there? And I don't think it's just me. I think it's getting crazier out here. And here's the other thing with me. I got a temper on me. And I didn't want to make a video about this because I was angry. And I take my YouTube very seriously in a sense where what the main thing that I do not want to do is incite violence. And to be totally honest, I have a tendency to do that. I have a tendency to rile people up, and I have that ability to get people riled up to, like, we can't stand for this shit, bro. We gotta do something about this. But when you're talking to a very large audience, you don't know who you're talking to. I mean, for the most part, I do know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to the I consider my audience to be very intelligent, but you just never know. So I don't want my words to provoke someone to go out there and hurt people. And so I never make a YouTube video when I'm angry. Rarely do I do that, because I take it very seriously. And I also believe that, God doesn't want me to do that. It's not even, it's, I just, my purpose here is not to do that. And so I try not to do that. I try very hard not to do that. One of my problems on Instagram and Twitter is I'll see something that makes me angry, and I'll just instantly respond. And every time I regret it. Sometimes I delete it, sometimes I don't. But I try very hard not to do that. And people are always like talking shit about Conor McGregor. Oh, he deletes the tweets. He talks all this shit and then he backs down. Like, dude, you think that guy's afraid of a fight? You think that guy's afraid of a conflict? You think he's deleting it because he's afraid one of y'all gonna step to him? I mean, he deletes it because he doesn't want the negative energy. He doesn't want to spread the negative energy. I get it. But there's also, it's a fine line, because you cannot let yourself be abused. You cannot let that happen. You can't let yourself be bullied, intimidated, abused. None of that. You cannot let that happen. I would see people on the street getting bullied, intimidated, and abused sometimes. Sometimes I would step in, sometimes I wouldn't. And when I wouldn't, is because I'd be thinking to myself, you got to learn to stand up for yourself. And stepping in and helping you is really not helping you, because you got to learn to stand up for yourself. And sooner or later, you're going to learn. If you're going to keep letting people intimidate you and bully you and abuse you, eventually you're going to learn to stand up for yourself. And you got to learn that lesson on your own. You know what I mean? If people always come in and help you, you're not learning what you need to learn. And what you need to learn is you can't let people abuse you. And what really would amaze me sometimes is they're getting bullied and intimidated and abused by someone who if all you got to do is push back a little bit, and that guy's gonna fold like a lawn chair. He ain't got no heart. He ain't got no backbone. He's picking on you because you're an easy target. And the instant that you make it clear that you're not an easy target, he's not going to want no problem with you. You don't see him messing with any of us. You know what I mean? And so, you know, people got to learn. You can't let people push you around. But here's the problem. You could very easily turn into the monster when, you know, once you're not afraid of violence or whatever, you could very easily turn into something that you do not want to be. You know, it's a very fine line, dude. It's a very tricky world we're in. So, for me, where I draw the line is if people touch me. I don't care what they say. I get angry enough to want to attack people for their words. I got a temper on me. I'm Irish and Italian. I got some high voltage running through my veins. But I also know that I can't go around just attacking people who get me upset. I know I can't do that. If you live your life like that, you're going to end up in jail with all the other people who cannot control themselves. All they do, you know, they fight over everything in jail. In jail, they fight over 10-cent soups. They kill each other over it. Do you want to be around those people? I don't, you know? So where I draw the line is if somebody touches me. And then once they cross that line, then we can fight. You know what I mean? But other than that, so that's where I draw the line. And with people who, you know, I've almost gotten into it with a lot of people. That McDonald's where I used to drink my coffee, there was this shooting there recently. It's a McDonald's on the west side of Manhattan. I would get into fights there all the time over every little thing. And I got to the point where I was just so sick of it. I started going across the street and spending $5 for a medium cup of coffee just so I didn't have to start my day in this rage state of mind, you know? And the thing is, I'd get into it with these people, but it would never amount to anything. It would always get broken up or whatever, you know what I mean? And then I'm sitting there in a state of rage, you know, and I'm like, I'm not doing this no more. The last straw was this, the cops ended up showing up and all this shit, and, you know, I was like, I'm done. I'm not coming here no more. I don't care about saving the money. I'm making lots of money. I got $1,500 in my pocket. I'm homeless, but fuck this shit. I'm going to the Metro Cafe across the street with better coffee, but just the peace and quiet of it, you know? And so that's what I started doing until the pandemic hit and I was forced back into that McDonald's. But at that point, everyone was so panicked from the coronavirus that I didn't get into it at all with anyone. But so, you know, let me get back to my point. So here's the thing. You cannot you can't let people abuse you. but you also cannot turn into some violent lunatic, because as crazy as it sounds, I believe that's what they want us to be. They want us to be a bunch of irrational, stupid, brainless thugs that hate each other and are willing to kill each other over politics. Isn't it amazing, dude? You know, like, but it's such a powerful thing that here's me, and I'm fully aware of the brainwashing and the manipulation. Go on my Patreon if you want details. I'm fully aware of it, and it works on me sometimes. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many social media posts I've seen over the last couple of days where if this person was talking like that in my presence, I'd have to say something. You know? Like, I would have to say something to them. And, you know, it could very easily turn into a physical confrontation, because I get that angry over what they're saying. But me, I'm a peaceful person. I'm not a violent person, you know? That's how powerful the manipulation and the brainwashing is. I'm aware of it, and it still has an impact on me to where I'm like, man, if he said that in my face, I don't know, I might attack that person for talking like that to me, you know? And it's like, I know that's wrong. I know that's not me, but it still happens. And it happens like on Facebook with people I've known my whole life. Sometimes they say things where I'm like, dude, like, it makes me so angry that it makes me want to attack the person. But here's the thing, and here's an ugly truth. The only thing that makes me violent is when I'm afraid, and that's the truth. And I came to that realization was the way I came to that realization was when I was living in an internet cafe in Chinatown in New York City. I would pay $7 and they would let me sleep there overnight, and I'd have this comfortable chair to sleep in. It's an internet cafe. I don't know if they even still have them anymore, but a lot of homeless people would go to Chinatown because there was a lot of internet cafes down there. This is in New York City. And we would pay for an overnight and we'd sleep in the internet cafe. And I stayed in the cheapest one, which was also like the Wild West. We got away with anything in there. We were in there smoking herb like it was totally legal. And I had a bunch of friends in there. We'd be smoking out. I'll go sit with them over there, smoke one. They come sit over here with us. It was like, you know, we were just hanging out in there every night. But what happened one night? Now I had my regular seat, and everyone knew that was my seat. We all had like regular seats, you know. There was probably about 10, 20 of us that were in there every night. We lived there. And so I come in one evening and there's someone in my seat. He looks dangerous. He looks like a thug. You know, New York street thug sitting in my seat. And I sit right by him and I'm kind of waiting for him to leave. I'm assuming he's not going to stay overnight. He's not one of us, you know. But he didn't leave. And so then I went and paid for my overnight. And I was like, yo, are you staying here tonight? And he automatically is like, what the fuck, you got a problem? And he's like trying to fight me, and I'm like, oh shit. And to be honest, I don't think I could have beat him, but I also wasn't gonna just back down like a pussy, you know what I mean? So we're kind of going back and forth, and I'm like, bro, calm the fuck down. Like, I was asking you a question, and he's like, well, you don't fucking approach all this shit. And then other people jumped in, and they're like, yo, he wasn't trying to, you know, bully you or whatever. That's just, he usually sits there like I usually sit here. We all usually sit in our own spots. And so then he's like, oh well, yeah. He ended up leaving the seat. But at that point, to be honest, I didn't care. I was like, whatever, I'll sit somewhere else. But he ended up giving up the seat. But then after that, there was this aggression between us. And so I always sat in my normal seat, but I also sensed that he felt like I kind of bullied him out of it or whatever. And I'm just, I'm like, how did I get caught up in this shit? Now I got like a dangerous enemy. And the other thing was, this kid was fresh out of jail, violent thug. He was known, he stayed there it ended up being a couple of months or whatever. So I ended up hearing that the way he makes money is people pay him to just attack people, or he panhandles, or he robs people and this and that. And I also had a fake gold chain. This is right by Canal Street in Manhattan. If you know anything about Canal Street in Manhattan, they sell the fake Louis Vuitton, the fake Gucci, the fake everything, fake gold. Don't buy anything on Canal Street in New York City. It's fake. But I knew some of the people down there selling the shit. One of them gave me a fake gold chain. He just gave it to me. And I'm wearing it because it looks real. And so this thug kid was under the impression that I had a lot of money because I always had good weed. I always had my overnight. I always had my food. I'm sitting here with this nice looking gold chain. He thinks I've got money. But this is in the winter, and it was probably around 2013. I was pretty new to being homeless. I didn't have that much money. I made like barely enough to keep getting by. But I could tell this kid was planning on robbing me. I'll just put it to you that way. I could just sense it. And so every evening when I'd be going to the internet cafe, I'd be very careful. I changed my route every night. And I was also ready. I wasn't giving him shit. I can tell you that much. I was going to die before I was going to give him anything. But I got to say, I was also ready to really hurt this guy. I wasn't unarmed. And that, take it for however you want to take it, but I'll put it to you this way. If he would have confronted me out on the street before I got there, I was willing to destroy him in any way possible. And what I realized, I was thinking to myself, because every evening when I would go to the internet cafe, I was ready for fucking war. And I was thinking to myself, why am I so like aggressive all of a sudden, where I guess I came to the realization, you're afraid of this dude, and that's why you want to hurt him. I hated him. I wanted to hurt him. I wanted to break his face. I wanted to hurt him bad. And I realized I've never wanted to hurt someone this bad in my life. And the reason why is because I know he's dangerous. And I know that if I go at him, I'm going to have to go all the way. And as dumb as it sounds, over $50 in my pocket, I was willing to, I didn't care. I wasn't letting him take anything from me. I hated him with every fiber of my being, and I wanted to hurt him, and I wanted to hurt him badly. And there was a part of me that wanted him to try that. I'd be going there, I'd be on my way to the internet cafe and thinking to myself, imagining myself ripping this dude to pieces. And to be honest, I got lucky. What ended up happening was he ended up going to jail. And he wasn't doing good out on the street. He was not doing good, And he was desperate. Because when there was no one to rob, he had to go beg and panhandle. And for one of these gangster thug type people, that is that hurts their pride. It hurts their ego. he wants to rob. He wants to be a gangster. But when there's no one to rob, he's got to go beg and panhandle. And so what ended up happening was I forget what he did, but he purposely went to jail because he couldn't handle it out on the street. And to be honest, I think he sensed that if he came at me, it was going to be a lot of problems. He sensed it. Otherwise, I think he would have come at me. I don't know if he is planning it or not, but I can tell you one thing. I never wanted to hurt someone so bad in my life. I can tell you that much. And, so yeah, I was scared, but it taught me a very valuable lesson, and that is, don't scare people. Do not scare people. That's the lesson there. Don't put no fear in people, because then they become dangerous. I had never been so dangerous in my life than when I was afraid of that dude, and I was more than ready for him. I was almost eager for it. That's how hyped up I was. I was thinking to myself, I've worked hard my whole life. I've tried my best to be peaceful. For this gutter ass piece of shit to think he's gonna take what I work so hard for, you're gonna have to kill me, bro. And you're not gonna be, because I'm gonna beat you to that. That, it sounds psychotic. You know what I mean? To be honest, if it happened nowadays, I don't know what I would do. Man, they're always running a blower in Florida. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's just... But nowadays, what would I do? I don't know. I don't know what I would do. But my reaction when I'm afraid of people, it makes me want to destroy them. So, the people who control the world know this. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying, we all need to hold hands and sing Kumbaya. What I am saying is that you got to be careful. You cannot let this world turn you into something that you are not. Don't let it turn you into a hate-filled, angry, frightened person. Try not to. You know what I mean? There's a Zen story that's very interesting. And I'm going to tell it to the best of my ability. So, there was this Zen master, I think his name was Kazaki. And he's a Zen hermit. This is in the samurai days in feudal Japan. There's a Zen hermit who lives in a cave by himself. He meditates, and he's a Zen master. And the whole village, the whole area knows about Master Kazaki, who lives up in the cave. And this is in feudal Japan, so there's the samurais and shit. And there was this one young samurai who, and any offense, and he's going to take your head off. He's killed multiple people. The samurai were a law unto themselves. They answered to no one. They were the law. They could get away with killing people if they felt disrespected, if they felt dishonored, and they used to do that. They were very violent, the samurai were. And so this young samurai who had killed multiple people in battles and outside of battles, he's killed people for just insulting him. He started thinking to himself one day, am I going to go to hell for all the people I've killed? And he started getting kind of nervous, and he didn't know the answer to that. And so he went to Master Kazaki, and he showed his respect for the Zen master. He gets down on one knee and puts his sword on the ground and asks his question. He said, Master Kazaki, is there a heaven and hell? And am I going to go to hell because of all the people I've killed. And the Zen master just looked at him like he was a cockroach, and he started laughing. And the samurai's like, what are you laughing at? And the Zen master said, because you're too stupid to understand the real answer, and I'm not going to waste my time trying to explain something to a fucking moron who's never going to understand it. And the samurai got very offended, and he pulled out his sword, and he got ready to take Master Kazaki's head. And right at that moment, when the samurai was just about to swing and take his head off, the Zen master pointed at him and he said, "Here lie the gates of hell." And the samurai stopped in his tracks, and he came to the realization that living the way he's living, in this state of anger, being insulted by everything and taking revenge on everyone, is actually a form of hell. And he got down on his knees and he said, "Thank you, Master Kazaki, for this brave lesson that you taught me." And then Master Kazaki said, "And here lie the gates of heaven," saying that, you know, the way of peace, the way of humility, being humble, grateful, and understanding, that's heaven. So, are heaven and hell real? Yeah, we create them ourselves. And I'm sure you can speak from your own experience. How do you feel after you let your anger control you? I can speak for myself. I don't feel good about it. I never feel good. Even when it's people who they fully deserve my absolute vitriol, I never feel good about it. I never feel good about it. One of the things that crosses my mind right now, Stephen King was on Twitter. I gotta say, Stephen King is way overrated. And I'm not saying that because of his political beliefs. I'm saying that because he writes mediocre books. His books are not good. They're just mediocre. Everyone thinks they're good because of the PR behind him. Like the press and the PR, this big, Stephen King wrote a book, everyone needs to read it. His books are trash, dude. Here's an example. What other author writes books that when they make a movie out of the book, the movie is better? So here's some examples. I've read a lot of Stephen King books, not that many. But so, Stand By Me is a great movie, but the book is trash. The book is boring, it's lame, it has, the movie is impactful. That's a powerful movie. The book, I was like, are you kidding me? I was so disappointed. And then I read The Shawshank Redemption. And again, I was like, that how did they make such a great movie out of this fucking trash book that it's like 7th grader wrote it? And then another example, I tried to read The Tower, Stephen King wrote this epic, like, Lord of the Rings type series called I think it's called The Tower. The first book is The Gunslinger. The Gunslinger, I thought, was interesting, and then I read the second book, kind of less interesting. Third book, kind of less interesting. Fourth book, I'm like 100 pages in, I couldn't even finish it. I was like, this is just the further I go into this series, the worse the books are getting. I'm like, this guy sucks. And so that was it. I stopped reading anything from him. But so Stephen King on Twitter said, well, Charlie Kirk was saying we need to stone gays to death. And as it turns out, it's not true. And so Stephen King kept apologizing. And then Chael Sonnen, who, former UFC fighter, Chael has a way with words. He's very good at talking shit. One of the best ever. Shale Sonnen. Shale Sonnen gets on Twitter and he's like, you are a miserable, old, nasty, lonely, frightened piece of shit. And I mean, he went for Stephen King's jugular in a way that only Shale Sonnen can. You know, I mean, it was mean. It was nasty what he said. And I think Stephen King ended up even erasing the tweet that Shale was responding to because he made, you know, it was some of the nastiest shit you could have said to someone, you know? And I guarantee you that Shale Sonnen doesn't feel good about that. You know what I mean? Because he crushed him. He went straight to the jugular. He squashed him. You can Google it. Look at what Shale said to Stephen King. And I'd be willing to bet that in the moment, it felt good to Shale to put this idiot in his place. But afterwards, you don't win. What'd you do? You hurt some old man's feelings. You know what I mean? That's the end result. You know? So, I've gotten into it with plenty of people, and, you know, I've made them look bad. And it never feels good. In the end, I feel like I just stomped on a chihuahua or something. You know? When it's all said and done, what did I accomplish? Hold up. What did I accomplish? I hurt some asshole's feelings. And it just never feels good. You know what I mean? So, I guess I'm kind of out of time, but I wanted to say rest in peace to Charlie Kirk. May God be with his wife and kids. And, you know, y'all gotta lighten up, man. The left, y'all gotta stop with this shit because, you know what? The right can be violent too, bro. You know? And I think, who do you think's gonna, look, you know, people on the right are into guns, they're into combat, they're into working out. These are the people you're trying to give them the green light for violence? I mean, are you dumb or what, bro? You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I guess that's the end of this one. I appreciate y'all. If you want to understand the manipulation, go on my Patreon. Ask me anything on there. I'm open to debate. If you think I'm wrong about anything, let's talk about it in the comments. If you can prove me wrong, then I'm wrong. You know what I mean? I don't defend lies. I don't defend bullshit. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm right. So I'm always open to debate. So I appreciate y'all. Lighten up out there, man. Try. But don't be scared. Don't let people walk all over you. Don't act like a doormat and then be surprised when people step on you. So, but on the other hand, don't turn into some violent, vicious lunatic because that's not the answer either, you know? So, what is the answer? The answer is this, it's all a test. So, keep that in mind. You're being tested. So, I guess that's the end of this one. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for the subs. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the tips. Thanks for the Patreon members. Thanks for the channel members. And, if you want a response to your comment, try to get it in the first 30 comments. And, that's it for this one. I appreciate y'all. I'll see you on the next one.